Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to wake up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
What's up? Let's do a radio show called Wake Up Warchant right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm Aslan. Corey Clark also here as well through the glory that is the internet. The show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality, and there are 3 great locations over in the College Town District: Central, Madison Social, and Township. Hope you had a great weekend, Corey. How are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. I had a pretty good weekend. How was your weekend?
Not too shabby. Kind of try to decompress a little bit from the week on the road, part of the recruiting on the trail that we've been doing on Warchant. So worked on Saturday, made it over to Hauser to watch the whole celebration of Mike Martin getting that record. And Sunday,
yeah, that was neat. That was a cool video, I thought. I saw that earlier on. I wasn't there at the game, but I saw the video that FSU Productions, I guess, Seminole Productions put together, or FSU Baseball, Chip Baker. I thought it was really well done.
Yes. I criticize the sort of the way they market our athletic programs at Florida State, just because I've seen other universities do a really knock-up job that I feel like don't have near the breadth and history, the illustrious history of Florida State. But that was solid. I got goosebumps the whole time, not to be cheesy, but that whole time, I had my back to the board most of the time, and I was filming, and I was zoomed up really tight on 11. I could just, even he had sunglasses on, you could still see him kind of grimace and try to stay stoic because, he was trying to hold back a lot of the emotions. I mean, I was constantly getting chilled throughout the entire thing. Eduardo Perez narrated it. People probably able to see it. I think they posted on Twitter and social media earlier once he broke the record. But I could even hear 11 walk up onto the rails. Go, I haven't seen this yet. Let me see it. And no, it was super cool, man. Him and his wife were out there. I mean, his whole family. It was really good occasion. That was unfortunately spoiled by NC State getting the last game of the series, but didn't ruin what was otherwise a very memorable day for 11 and Florida State baseball faithful.
Well, and a good weekend overall, right? I mean, it's cool that they got to celebrate 11. The home crowd did, but again, he did it. He broke the record in Clemson, which that game was probably their best win of the season. The win at Clemson to break the record until this past weekend when they won the 2 games against NC State. Those are good wins and important wins. I still don't see them being a top 8 seed. Nah. But I think they're solidly a top 16 seed now, no matter what happens in North Carolina in the ACC tournament. So, I mean, you're a top 16 seed. You hope you hopefully win your regional, and then just hope you'll get paired with Gainesville.
Which, I don't know, maybe they lost a little bit of footing after getting swept by Mississippi State this past week, so maybe they won't get that number 1 overall seed, and maybe Florida State won't be stuck at 16, or if they are stuck at 16, hopefully they'll dodge the number 1 seed in a super regional if they can make it through their regional. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, what was the most encouraging aspect of it? I know you were there for the game Thursday. I don't think either of us were there on Friday, but I mean, I saw Jonas Scalaro got touched up a little bit, which it's kind of been happening, but it's really hit or miss with Jonah. I feel like he either comes in really high leverage situations and is able to get himself out of it, or bad things kind of happen. He never just kind of slogs through, I feel like.
Right. He's not a closer in my mind. He's just not. I don't think he's a fine relief pitcher, and he's a guy they're going to need in the postseason. But I don't think if you have a 1-run lead in the 9th inning, that's the guy I'd be going to. I'd be going to Van Eyck. That kid's not going to start, I don't think, in any postseason game unless they get to a game 4 in a regional. So I think you make him your closer. I think he is, the way he looked on Thursday, I think that guy is the next star on the mound for Florida State. By the way, Drew Parrish is really good too, and they're both coming back. I think Van Eyck is in the rotation next year. I think he's a future Friday night guy. But for now, this team, he needs to be pitching twice a week in high leverage situations. Even maybe 2 innings on a Friday night, 1 inning on a Sunday, something like that. You need the guy to pitch. He's your, I think he's one of your 2 or 3 best pitchers, and he's a guy that can get you multiple scoreless innings. I just think he's got probably the best stuff on the team. And I think in the postseason, he's also proven, like he did at Clemson. He pitched whatever it was, 6 1/3 scoreless innings at Clemson, or gave up 1 run, I think, in the last 6 innings of that game to get that win. And then, he got the win against NC State on Thursday after giving up a leadoff triple. He strikes out the next 3 guys in order. I mean, he's just got electric stuff. That's the guy I think that's your closer. That's who I'd make my guy that I'm counting on to hold the lead for me. And Scalaro isn't that guy. Maybe this was I think Friday night, they gave him the chance with a 1-run lead, and he gave up a home run, Scalaro. And then Van Eyck came in the 10th inning, held him, and then Reese Albert, another really talented freshman, hit the walk-off. So, again, that wasn't the question you asked. I don't think Scalaro is the closer. I think Van Eyck is your closer moving forward. But I think Scalaro is an important part of the bullpen.
Do we want to update who we feel comfortable with coming out of the pen now? I mean, I don't even know if Austin Pollock, I feel like that's just rapidly deteriorating, unfortunately. Young kid, he'll be fine, but just right now, I don't feel a lot of confidence when he's out there. I like Kwiatkowski. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if he maybe pitched earlier in the week, and that's why they didn't go to him on Saturday, or maybe they did. I don't think they did.
He pitched 2 innings maybe on Thursday in that game before Van Eyck came in and did well. Yeah, I think you're comfortable with him. You're comfortable with Scalaro. You're comfortable with Van Eyck. Maybe possibly Connor Grady. The other guys are all kind of wild cards that are just kind of mixed and matched. Yeah. And I don't know who you really feel comfortable with in those roles. But I think, also, quite frankly, when Drew Parrish and Andrew Karp are pitching as well as they pitched, you don't need a huge bullpen. Yeah. Those guys keep getting into the 7th or 8th innings. So, Cole Sands Cole Sands kind of melted there late, but pitched really well for a long stretch. He got you 6 innings. So as long as your starting pitchers are doing that, you don't need a huge bullpen.
And the power.
But Van Eyck needs to be a huge part of it moving forward. He needs to be pitching a lot.
And at the plate, a little power is starting to show itself. That's always an encouraging thing.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh, I think this is the best he's ever hit, easily. The ball he hit on Saturday, I don't know if you were you there for the whole game? Did you?
I was there. Stephen McCartney, the sports information director, he'll give you in the press box, folks. He gives the people that work in the press box updates on every half inning, like 3 guys left on base for the Noles, no runs or whatever across. As soon as that thing went off the bat, he's like, "That's Cal Raleigh's 14th home run," or whatever. I don't even know what number home run was on there, but as soon as that went off the bat, he announced it as a home run. It was pretty funny.
I mean, that ball was just crushed. I mean, Cal Raleigh's just hitting the ball really well. Mendoza is not. They need to get that kid going one way or the other. But yeah, Cal Raleigh. It's an okay lineup. It's not a great lineup. They did enough this weekend to win 2 out of 3. They weren't great, but they got a couple obviously timely home runs. Didn't hit well with runners on base, but good teams limit you with runners on base. NC State didn't hit well with runners on base. That's hard to do sometimes. The really good pitchers bear down. But I think you get this team in a regional. You're at home. You like your chances of getting out of that regional, and then a super regional. I think it's just a crapshoot. Depends on where you're going.
Florida State.
If you're at home or if you're having to go again, you just want to stay away from Gainesville because this team could not beat that team.
Yeah, Florida State taking on Virginia in the ACC tournament in pool play on Tuesday. That game will be at approximately 3 p.m. Florida State is in a pod with NC State and Virginia. And, again, they'll start their pool play on Tuesday. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the softball team, Corey, which the thing that was crazy to me was they won on Saturday in walk-off fashion via inside the park home run, and you couldn't hear a thing. I am no audio engineer. Clearly, you can tell by the way sometimes the quality of the show is. Sorry, everybody. I'm a video guy. Man, when I saw everybody tweeting about it, I'm like, how did we not hear a roar? There was no roar. There was no pop from the left field side of Hauser, where you'd think the softball stadium would come alive after winning a game in that sort of fashion. But the Lady Noles off to the Super Regional again. They'll get maybe a crack at revenge, if they want to call it that, against LSU, the team who ended their season last year. And that'll be in Tallahassee. So Coach Almeida and the Lady Noles, man, they're looking good. Looking good, Corey. Let's go to Tulsa. Can we go to Tulsa if they make it to the Women's College World Series?
You can go to Tulsa, but that's not where the College World Series is.
Oklahoma City. Sorry.
It's in Oklahoma City.
Sorry.
But, hey, they're both beautiful this time of year.
They are.
You probably, when you're in Oklahoma, you obviously want to take a day trip to Tulsa. I mean, you just want to. You can't be in Oklahoma and not go visit that beautiful city.
My bad. I'm doing push-ups. Do push-ups.
And then you go to Oklahoma City and watch the softball. Yeah, man, it's kind of cool that LSU, Florida State was number 1 in the country for much of last season, and then lost. I think they lost 2 straight to LSU in the Supers, and didn't get in. As good a season as it was last year, that's a massive disappointment. And then now you get a chance, like you said, to get a little bit of revenge over a team that's really good. And yeah, man, she's got a really nice program. You wonder when it's going to take that next step, like you've always wondered about the baseball team. I think Florida State softball is to the point now we're just getting to the Supers or even getting Oklahoma City and Tulsa isn't good enough. So can this be the team that finally takes a magical ride out to the World Series and wins the thing? By the way, last year, Florida State softball and baseball combined to go 0-4 against LSU. The baseball team had its season ended by LSU out in Omaha, and the softball team had its season ended by LSU at Joanne Graff Field. So, I mean, good grief. At some point, you got to beat LSU, people. Yeah. Florida State players on the diamond, go beat them.
Well, they wanted our football coach. We were able to keep him, so they were able to exact revenge on the assorted diamonds there. But
sure, they got Ed Ogeron, so yeah. Florida State. Now with Willie Taggart, Florida State still came out way ahead of LSU.
Yeah, they got a big old Bondo. They got a big old Bondo of concepts.
We should do a show of you just doing your impressions.
All right, I'll try. As long as you do a little Liam Neeson, give us a banana. Maybe once.
Well, I'll do my Travolta and my Liam Neeson, but those are just words. Yeah. I can't do anything but like 2 words. Yeah. But you have like real impressions.
All right, I'll try. Hey, I'll give you 30 seconds to add your comment on this. It kind of ties into talk about last year and the Noles. Weird note. I mean, I saw Dylan Busby, man. Dylan Busby caught one a fastball in his minor league game the other day, and had to be, I think, taken to the hospital. So thoughts obviously with Dylan, sending good vibes. Hopefully he feels good. But I was Googling his name or searching his name on Twitter to see the status on him, and I really couldn't find any updates. But I mean, clip after clip of him raking last year in the regional round and then in Omaha. Like, man, and I totally, I forgot how, I don't want to say in control, but Florida State jumped on LSU early, man, in Omaha, game 1. It felt like everything was going well until it didn't, man.
It was just, that's Florida State out there, man. I don't know how to explain it. We can blame Mike Martin for somehow that happening. But again, Stephen Wells is a very good outfielder. Florida State has a 1-run lead in the 8th inning. A ground ball is hit to him out in the outfield, a single that somehow goes through him. And then somehow Cal Raleigh can't catch a ball where the kid is out by 10 feet at home, and he drops the ball. I mean, I think they made 3 errors on one play. Or 2, I think it was 3 errors on one play. It was at least 2. And it's just that kind of stuff that happens. But, yeah, Florida State had, I think, a 2-run lead early with Tyler Holton on the mound. Tyler Holton pitched well. But, not well enough, because why would Florida State ever want to win their first game in Omaha?
I know. You got to make it more dramatic than it can be. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we need to wrap up what happened last week over the ACC meetings. We weren't able to do a very thorough job of that. And for that, we will turn to our managing editor, the one and only Ira Schoffel, right after this on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up Warchant.
You're locked in to Wake Up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back, folks. It's Wake Up Warchant right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio, brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. I'm Aslan. Corey Clark joining me, and we do have managing editor Ira Schoffel as well today on the program. Ira, how are you, man? Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm on the hotline.
Dude, anytime. Anytime we can bring you on. And, folks, a reminder also, we're starting a little sort of summer foray into keeping everything interesting on the Tribal Council and over on warchant.com. We're launching a sort of greatest ever series where you folks can go ahead and nominate and then ultimately vote on singular plays that were the best in Florida State history. For example, the best touchdown catch, the best special teams touchdown, the best defensive touchdown, the best sack, things of that nature. We're starting off with the best and most memorable running play in Florida State history. If you have suggestions, you can't call me or email me. You got to go over to warchant.com on the Tribal Council and go ahead and put your nomination. If you don't have a subscription, get one. Use the promo code warchant30 to get it hooked on up. All right, Ira. So
Ira, that's all the time we have. Thanks for stopping by.
Sorry, come on, man. Got to pay the bills over here, Corey. All right, so Ira, you just got back from Paradise, or not, didn't just get back, but you had a little a soiree out there with the big wigs of the ACC. John Swafford personally inviting you to come hang out with him and rub elbows over at Amelia Island for the ACC meetings. Lots of news came out from there. The one thing I wanted to talk about, and I mentioned this to Corey, this whole football facility thing, renovate more center or build a standalone facility. The only thing I want to get your thoughts on all of it, but the thing I wanted to see if you could clarify with me is I feel like the site of a football-only facility was kind of penciled in as being that open area / parking lot between the indoor practice facility and Stadium Drive. And a whole bunch of people now I feel are going crazy. Like, where are we going to put it? Where are we going to put it? Let's move Hauser. Let's move the soccer fields. And I thought that was sort of, if they were going to go that direction, that's what they were going to pick out. Has something changed?
No, I don't think anything's changed. I just think that nobody's seen anything on paper. Nobody's seen anything concrete. That's just kind of what we've all kind of either assumed or been told or been led to believe that that's the area it would go in. But until we actually see the drawings and people can kind of get a visual of it, I think people are really confused about how it could happen. So, no, I don't think anything's changed. I just don't think everybody has a clear picture of what they're looking at doing.
How did you sort of translate or feel about Willie's comments? Did you feel as though Willie is firmly entrenched in wanting a football-only facility, or is he open to renovating more? Well,
I mean, he was very clear about it last week in Amelia Island when we spoke to him that he wanted a new facility. And, his point wasn't, he was coming at it a little bit differently. And, I think than maybe Jimbo was, which caused all the kind of acrimony toward the end of Jimbo's tenure was, Jimbo's approach was, we've got to have this. It's basically you don't want to win if you don't want to do this. Willie Taggart, his point was, and I actually asked him about it, and I kind of put him on the spot about it. It's not like he held a press conference and said, "Hey, I want this building." I specifically asked him, "Do you want a standalone facility, or could you make do renovating the Moore Center?" And he said, "I just don't know why we want to keep band-aiding it." That's kind of how we got in this situation in the first place. And, maybe if you renovate the Moore Center 5, 6, 7 years from now, you might be in the same situation again where you're feeling like this isn't the facility you really want. So he was pretty clear about it the other day. I do think that maybe there's been some conversation since then where they maybe asked him to tone that down a little bit because no decision has been made. And so when Gene talked to him last night in Tampa, he kind of walked that back a little bit and said that, he wants the best they can have, and just like everybody wants the best that they can get. But he kind of he left the door open to renovating the Moore Center, whereas the other day he just felt like, that was not really just not a wise use of the money when you're just kind of patching things up.
It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up Warchant. Ira Schoffel, managing editor of warchant.com, joining us. Corey, how did you sort of balance out what you heard from Ira over the week in Amelia Island, and then ultimately what Gene sort of reported on Sunday with Willie's thoughts on the whole, the sort of idea about what they're going to do with the football facility?
Well, I mean, I think it's still all up in the air. I mean, they obviously want a standalone facility, or Willie Taggart wants one, but him walking it back as quickly as he did, and not walking it back like he did. It wasn't jumping backwards. It was just, I obviously he wants a standalone football facility. I get that. We all get that. Whether Florida State can afford one, we don't know. We just don't know. And, that's just the reality of it. So would you rather not have anything, or would you rather start renovating more and have something really nice that I would assume most 17-year-olds would still be really impressed with, but it's not what Clemson has. It is what it is. It's, I guess this is just what college football is now, is just talk about renovations and facilities and bigger, better, more money all the time. Because that's all it is ever anymore.
I mean, the thing is, though, I understand and I understood where Jimbo was coming from. I never took issue with Jimbo's belief that they needed a new facility.
Right.
When you consider, who their main competition is. I mean, in the conference, it's Clemson, and in the state, it's Miami and Florida. Well, Clemson's already got the best indoor facility in the country, and Miami and Florida are building new ones. So if you're just going to sit here and keep making do, then that's going to be a problem. So I understand his frustration. I understand his concerns, but I also understand where fans are coming from. A lot of fans feel like, look, Florida State did it did it with less for years and years and years. That's never been what Florida State football is about. This isn't Oregon where you have to have all the bells and whistles. But at the same time, I understand Willie's points. I mean, I just think that, as Corey said, and as you mentioned earlier, Aslan, it's this is one of those things that's probably going to drag on for a little while because there's merit to every way to look at it. There's merit to renovating. There's merit to building a standalone, and there's merit to not going crazy in the arms race, because at some point, this money's got to come from somewhere. And the arms race, just because everybody else is doing it, I understand where people are coming from when they say, well, we can't just keep throwing money because other schools are throwing away money.
What's the pitch, though? Like, how is this going to translate into winning football games? Were they going to become more efficient? That's what we're being told, that you're going to be efficient?
Efficiency is a big part of it. And I will say that everybody you talk to, whether it's people in the athletic training staff, whether it's people in the academic staff, whether it's people, obviously the football coaching staff, will tell you that the building that they're in right now is not efficient for what they're trying to do. And look, I mean, it goes back to the way it was built. I mean, it was very clever for Florida State officials back in the day, TK Weatherall and Dave Hart and that crew back in, I guess, the late 90s when they kind of started doing it, during the 90s, making the renovations and putting all those classrooms in Doak Campbell Stadium, which is how they got the state money from the legislature to build and renovate Doak Campbell Stadium. It was really clever to do that. But on the flip side is now you've got all these classrooms in there. And so, I was talking to somebody on the staff the other day, just Saturday, and they were saying, look, I mean, where we have our meetings, there are literally students sitting in the hallway waiting for classes to start, waiting for, and it's just, it's not normal. I mean, it's not normal at football at this level. This isn't 1985 anymore. This is football at this level where it is, big business, where you have just kind of, intermixed of, football meetings and practices. They've got students just wandering around their building. It's just a different level from what you're seeing at a lot of these other schools where, for better or worse, it's run more like a professional organization.
Ira, last
but
point.
also,
go ahead.
but the recruiting side of it's huge too, because again, these kids are coming on these recruiting trips and they're going to visit, UF, then they're going to visit FSU, then they're going to visit Tuscaloosa, then they're going to visit Clemson, and they're comparing what they see, and you don't want to be seen as having inferior facilities.
Corey, you got anything for Ira? Get involved.
Well, no, but I would add to this because I think it sounded like when I talked a little while ago that I don't understand why they would want it. I do understand why they'd want it, and I think they need one. Purdue has one, and I bring this up all the time. Purdue has a football-only facility. Purdue, when was the last time they were any good? Drew Brees, Bob Greasy? Like, they don't win anything ever in football. They're terrible, and they have a football-only facility. So Florida State needs one. Somewhere along the way, they need to find a way to make it happen. But I just hope, and Ira hinted at it a little bit, Jimbo was not easy to deal with when it came to this kind of stuff. There wasn't a back and forth. It was, this is what I want. Get out of my way and shut up. Let's hope the new guy communicates a little better and tries to work with the people that are trying to help him out, and vice versa. Because then I think when he's cordial and actually understanding, he doesn't give in. You don't want to push over, but you want somebody that's at least understanding of maybe some of the obstacles that Florida State has, that the people that are working with him will want to work with him. And it can actually get done, and it won't just be barking matches and stalemates, because nobody wins when it comes to that.
Ira, I got about 30 seconds left. Wanted to ask you this. John Swafford playing a game of poker, I feel like. Does he have pocket rockets, or does he have like Deuce 4 offsuit when he's talking about the ACC network being a linear channel? And folks, linear channel means an actual cable channel that you would flip through and flip on. 2019, August, this is still going to happen. Do we believe this?
I do believe it's going to happen. The question is, how much money does it bring in? How many cable networks is it on? From that standpoint, I think he's drawing for the flush. I don't know if he's got it cold right now. I don't know if he's feeling good on the river as he waits for the river card. But I do think the channel's going to happen. The question is, how many networks carry it, or carriers carry it, and how much money does it actually bring in?
Hey, are you guys going to get together and do headlines this week?
No.
Good question, Corey.
No, we're not going to do it. Not this week.
Exclusive news. Well, what am I going to listen to on my way home for Memorial Day, guys? Thanks, Corey. Thanks, man.
Another Wake Up Warchant. This episode over and over again.
What?
Ira could just be on here for the next 3 days. The three of us.
Nah, man, I can't do that. He's contractually obligated to keep the juices going for headlines.
Good point.
He's the managing editor of warchant.com and has to tolerate myself and Corey on a daily basis. Ira, thanks for your time as always, friend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
That's Ira Schoffel.
I love you, Ira. Ira, I love you.
We're going right back. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up Warchant.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
It's Wake Up Warchant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm Aslan Hajavandi, Director of Digital Media for Warchant.com. Corey Clark, the senior writer and senior columnist for Warchant.com. Also, always part of the program. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Corey, so you laughed at me, you mocked me, but the people responded. We had several folks, I think maybe over a half dozen, were brave enough to call and leave a message on our feedback hotline, and then we went ahead and unveiled their questions as part of the Renegade Express on Friday's program. You want to ask me what the number is? I actually have it written down this time, Corey.
It's 1-800-555-5525.
Close. 850-792-5730. Now, in the midst of this, for some reason, Corey, you know, I got back to Tallahassee, and I just wanted to kind of make sure, you know, just kind of check on the line or the voicemails or whatever. And, dude, there was, I mean, let me count this again, man. 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 6 that we didn't even get to. Now, 4 of them were on time. 2 of them came in late. But there was 4 that actually came over in time to get onto the program, but for some reason they didn't appear on my end in Charlotte. I don't know why. So let's go ahead and make it up to the people, Corey, shall we?
Let's do it, man. Right, let's do it.
Here's one of the questions that we weren't able to get to.
Hey, Aslan and Corey. It's Daniel from Texas. Despite what you might read on the Tribal Council and Twitter, you guys actually put on a good podcast. So keep up the good work. 2 serious questions for you. 1, was there any consideration before this past weekend of just having Will Deerzau sit out and take a medical red shirt and get another full year of eligibility in 2019? Secondly, on a much more important note, Aslan, the people are dying to know, what was the craziest girl you met via Tinder? The people need the deets, my man. Thanks.
All right. He said Will Deerzau. It took me like 7 times listening to it to break it out, but he said Will Deerzau, Corey. So I don't know if you couldn't make that out.
Right.
I would assume there was
I don't think so because they knew that he would be back at some point. And I'll be honest with you, man. I know he had that great moment. And we all remember him as like a 2-hit shutout to clinch the regional against Auburn. It was nuts. But I don't think he was like a huge part of their plans for the staff. And even if he redshirts, I don't know where he fits in next year. Like he'd be a nice piece, I guess, for like a long relief. But I think they thought he was going to be back so soon, like the middle of the season. And it was kind of actually more towards the late end of the season. That they thought that, okay, let's use him for this season, especially once Tyler Holden went down. They just wanted him to race back to maybe provide some depth for this season. And quite frankly, next year, that's probably what he would have done anyway, is just a depth provider. Which, if that's the case, man, that's pretty awesome. What a great way for his last start to go. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the great moments in Florida State baseball history. Just out of the blue, out of nowhere, that dude who had started like 5 games in his life at Florida State threw a 2-hit shutout on that kind of stage.
It was amazing. All right, man, the craziest.
Yeah, let's get the beats. Now let's hesitate on calling the women crazy.
No,
but maybe what was one of the craziest experiences off a Tinder date.
This is so long. I should keep it somewhat brief. I'll try to as much as I possibly can. It's probably going to take up the rest of the segment, though. I'm sorry in advance, everybody that just wants to hear football. Sorry. Okay, so match with her on Tinder. I think we talked. We maybe exchanged messages for maybe 1 or 2 days, and I just went ahead right into it. I'm like, hey, let's grab a drink. I'm getting off work at like 10 o'clock because I was in TV, or getting off at 10:30. So she's like, yeah, but can you pick me up? My car is in the shop. I'm like, sure, whatever. She gives me the address. It's on a really rough part of Jackson, and it was a little bit weird. I'm like, ugh, this is kind of a bad part of town. I hope I'm not getting set up to get mugged or something. Her house is behind another house. There's this really long driveway, and there was it looked like there was a garage sale going on. There's just all this crap in the front lawn. I'm like, oh, geez. She comes out of the house smoking a cigarette, puts it out on the wall next to her door, flicks the butt, and then comes walking up to the car. I'm like, oh, gosh, I can't stand people who smoke. Women, men, dogs, cats, whatever. So she gets in the car, and it's like, oh, geez, here we go. So we go out for a couple drinks, start talking about her life, and just getting to know each other. Apparently she was divorced, which is fine. That's normal, I guess, right? And then she started talking about her upbringing. Apparently she was emancipated from her family when she was 14 or 15. So that was red flag. Man. That was red flag number 2 after the smoking, or not red flag, but just strikes in terms of what's going to be compatible with me. And I literally said to her, after she told me that she'd been emancipated from her family, I'm like, wow. She's like, well, is that a lot? I'm like, that's kind of heavy. And I'm like, what are you going to tell me next? That you have a kid waiting for you at home after this date? And then she said, no, he'll be fine. I left him $20 to get pizza. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? She's like, no. And she was about 3 or 4 years younger than I was, maybe even more than that. And I'm like, what? Apparently she had like a 10-year-old son at home by himself while she's on a date with some guy off Tinder.
Yeah, that's pretty dicey. You probably did the right thing there.
It's not over. It's not over yet, Corey. It's not over yet.
So how long have you been seeing her?
Oh, never. This was the first date.
No, it was a joke.
Oh, sorry.
It was a joke. You were supposed to say 6 months.
It got even worse because I had no shame at that point, and I'm like, whatever, let's get out of here. So I'm driving back to my place, and I had to stop to get gas. She goes inside the gas station and does grocery shopping. Like, she came out with 4 shopping bags in a grocery store, like donuts, BC powder, all this crazy stuff or whatever. I have no shame. I'm like, oh, gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. So we go back to my place, and we start.
Now, remember, this is a morning radio show with kids in the car.
It's not going to get much worse, I promise. So we start making out or whatever, and it was just like, I'm like, I just can't do this. I'm like, it's just not going to work for me. So I'm like, stop. I'm like, yeah, this is not right. I just don't feel right about doing this. And then she like pushed me off of her and just looked at me with these crazy eyes. She's like, what's your problem? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, let's just grab your stuff and go. So we get in the car. I'm driving her to her place. It's just dead silence because I don't have the radio on or anything. She is so drunk, apparently, I guess. She pulls out her cell phone and she's like, give me your aux cord. I don't have an aux cord in my car. She cranks up the radio because she thinks she's turning up the audio on her cell phone. So she's cranking it up all the way, and I turn it down. I'm like, what are you doing? And then she cranks it up all the way again, and it's like 2 a.m. I stop, pull over on the side of the road. I turn off the radio. I look at her. I'm like, we got 3 minutes to your house. You're not going to touch anything in this car. You're not going to say a word, and you're going to go home. And then silence. She starts crying. I drop her off at her house. She gets out the car, and she's just staring at me the whole time I'm backing out of that long driveway. I'm looking behind me, backing up. I'm looking forward. She's just staring at me with death eyes. And then 3 minutes later, I get a text message from her. No lie. She says, I text her. I'm like, delete me from your phone. Don't ever call me again. And she texts me back, and she literally says, I will do what you asked. P.S. At least we had a great time. And she put like 3 smiley emojis.
Yeah, man. That's the deal with Tinder. That's the risk you run.
That's a risk you run, indeed. All right, next question.
Good morning, Warchant. After Jimbo Fisher left, how many coaches they interviewed and who? Thank you.
Leave your name, by the way, folks. Don't be scared.
And I like that you just call us Warchant, which we are, but it's Wake Up Warchant.
Yeah, close enough.
They interviewed one coach, and it was the guy they got.
Yeah,
there was nobody else on the. There were other people on the list, but he was at the top. So that's who they interviewed, and they liked what they liked who they interviewed. He liked them. In the college football coaching carousel game, you got to jump on it quick when you know who you want. So there was no need, in their eyes anyway, to even to interview anyone else. That's the guy they wanted. He knocked it out of the park with the interview. They offered him. He accepted. End of transaction, end of coaching search.
Let me ask you this, Corey. This is total conjecture. That was obviously the top of the list for Stan Wilcox to go after Willie Taggart. But coming out of 2016, had this all happened, had Jimbo taken the job in 2016 when he was flirting heavily with LSU, or had he left for LSU, do you think Willie Taggart would have been the number 1 guy on the radar at that point as well?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I don't know. I don't know why the 1 year at Oregon would have made that much a difference. It might not have. I think he would have been near the top. But I don't. That's a really good question. I don't know if he is the top without that year at Oregon, and I can't remember who else was out there. Was it Tom Herman?
Yeah.
Were there? I think Tom Herman would have been near the top because of what he did at Houston, and they got firsthand experience about his Houston team. And I'm sure there's one or two other ones that I'm forgetting that I think would have been near the top two, but I don't think Taggart would have been the slam dunk number one choice like he was this year. I think out of the potential candidates that were out there, I think you could say he was probably the best they could do and a perfect fit for them. But maybe they don't think that a year before.
Final segment of Wake Up Warchant coming up on ESPN 97.9 in Tallahassee. We're getting to your questions right after this.
You're locked in to Wake Up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Never too late to make it right, folks. We had some questions come through on the Renegade Express last week that we weren't able to get to, so we're getting to them now. That's Wake Up Warchant. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Don't forget, again, folks, get over to warchant.com. Make your nomination for the best running play in Florida State history, what you think it is. Corey, like 30 seconds. What do you think is the best running play in Florida State history?
I'd probably go with the Peter Warrick crazy reverse against Louisiana Tech. That's probably my most memorable one. But the Greg Jones knocking Dexter Reed's helmet completely off in 2003. That's an all-time Florida State highlight. I would say one of those two.
I saw somebody post Dalvin's run against Michigan.
Maybe the EJ spin sack.
Oh,
when EJ would spin in the sacks, because those are technically rushing plays.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry. What were you going to say, Dalvin?
Somebody posted a touchdown run of Dalvin's against Michigan in the Orange Bowl game. Like, come on, guys. Orange Bowl game. Come on.
It wasn't even a touchdown. It just got him down there. I think he got caught. Yeah. It was a huge run, though, but yeah, that's not one of the top 5 runs. That's not even one of the best runs in Dalvin's. The one he had against Miami. Yeah. On a bad hamstring, it's probably more impressive or bigger, in my opinion.
Running on the beach with all that sand kicking up on national TV. Looked beautiful. All right, let's get back to the questions. Here we go.
Hey, this is Shane Gibbs. What's up, fellas? Wake up! Hey, Aslan, I just wanted to ask this question, man. Since you've been on the road with Michael Langston or whatnot, and you've been able to see the recruits and, how they react when they talk about Florida State and stuff like that, what do you think, in your opinion, where do you think this recruiting class will end up? Top 5, top 10, number 1 recruiting class? I mean, just talking to these recruits, you should probably be able to get a good gauge on, what's really going on with Florida State, the excitement around the program. But anyway, that's what I wanted to ask. You guys are awesome, couple of dudes, no doubt about it. You both deserve single-digit numbers. No doubt about that. You guys have a great one, man. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
That's a good message. He needs to call more often.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, on Friday, the way things were working with us being apart from each other and remotely, Corey and I couldn't listen to the questions live like we're doing right now, which I think, again, just trust me, folks. Keep leaving your messages. 850-792-5730. It's going to be a weekly part of the show. I think it'll be really great. To the question now, though. Yeah, I'll be honest. Some of these kids, I would say the Chris Bogle kid, the Derek McClendon kid, those are the two guys who stood out to me in terms of, wow, I would be surprised if they don't sign with Florida State. The kid
Who are they? Who are they real quick?
Defensive end, Derek McClendon from Tucker, Georgia, 4-star defensive end. And then Chris Bogle is a defensive end from Cardinal Gibbons in Fort Lauderdale. So they're both defensive ends. Now, some of the other guys, it's a lot of 50-50 stuff. And, I mean, Will Putnam, I think, from Tampa Plant High, he sounds like he's kind of got a good feel for Florida State. But listen, there's a lot of these kids. And with TV, I don't know how it works for you guys in print, Corey, but we run things in TV. We run things verbatim. So, like, when a kid says something, we run 20 seconds of it, and then that's that. I don't know how much stuff you guys can kind of weave together and have the editorial liberty to make it all kind of gel and flow together. But, I mean, a lot of these kids are just kind of, hey, I don't know, it's cool. I mean, I feel like there's nobody else I have a strong feeling about, whether it's the kids from IMG, whether it's the number 1 overall prospect in the entire country who we spoke with, and his video will probably be up on Warchant later today. I mean, quite frankly, to be honest with you, off the record, but on the record because we're all family, Michael asked him, what's so cool about about Coach Taggart or Willie Taggart, and he paused and was like, oh, you mean who's that, the coach? And it's like, it's probably not a good sign. But he talked about the fact that he likes relationships, and I think Willie can win on that sort of battle. But he's not like a guy who's solely focused on making money, getting to the pros, and wants to get down to Alabama because, quote, Nick knows something. He knows something down there. That doesn't feel to me very like a slam dunk. But a couple of these guys, it feels like slam dunks. The guys I mentioned, everybody else feels kind of iffy. We'll see how it goes. But I would trust Michael's opinion more than mine. He's known these kids longer than I do.
Well, and also it might be they really don't know. I mean, some of them the recruiting process is really kind of just starting for them as far as where they're like, okay, I'm about to be my senior year. I need to really buckle down and figure out where I want to go. And they don't know. And there's a lot of people coming at them, and they have to do a lot of research. They have to go on multiple visits to figure out where they want to go. It's hard to know where you want to go in May. Yeah. You know, and even if you think like you do, you feel like you do, you might change your mind in December. So, you know, you can get a read on someone in May, and everything might be different by October. Yeah. So, you know, we'll see, but it's good to know that, you know, some of those guys at least are talking positive about Florida State, I guess. Even, you know, the ones that know who Willie Taggart is, I mean.
Right. But no, all of them are impressed with the way things are and sound very encouraged and are more in tune and more on board with what Willie brings than what Jimbo brought. With that said, next question.
I got a long-time caller from College Station, long-time listener. Aslan, Corey, I just want to say, Pod don't care who cast it, but I appreciate you guys bouncing around doing some things. Maybe 65 degrees here in College Station, but have yourself a good day if you want to. If not, walk your ass down here and tell me about it. But yo, it's
all right. Okay.
Was that it?
I think it cut off. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. There's no way we have a real fan or a real listener in College Station, is there?
No.
He must have been joking.
It was an 850 phone.
Oh, he was supposed to be Jimbo.
Correct.
That's what it sounded like. Yeah. So he was doing his Jimbo impression. Sorry, that went over my head.
All right, let's get to the last question. It looks like a long one, Corey. Let's go ahead and let it rip.
What's up, guys? This is Sam Wright, all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas. I went to Florida State, graduated in 2005. I guess around y'all's age anyway. About the only... I don't know, there's some Florida State fans out here, but I love podcasts for that reason. I would like to suggest to Corey the hotel, the Hyatt he should choose is the Grand Hyatt in Kauai. I don't know, I'm going pretty soon. Looks fantastic. It's pretty bulletproof. I think you're going to have a good time. And also, I think that, I don't know, I think 11 wins is a little unattainable. And Corey, you said 10 or 11 wins is the ceiling and also the floor. I feel like 10 that's a good number. You could say 10 is the ceiling for next year and then the floor going forward. That sounds right. 11 sounds crazy. I don't know why one win makes such a difference there, but please discuss. Have a good one. Bye.
All right, look at that.
Did he say he said his name, didn't he?
I don't know. Did he?
I think he did at the beginning. But also, I want to point out that was a pretty good Jimbo Fisher impression.
That was a really good Jimbo Fisher. No,
it didn't dawn on us until afterwards because I'm an idiot that he was acting like Jimbo, even though he was saying all the Jimbo stuff. Pod don't care who cast it. Walk your ass down here and say that to me. None of that resonated with me to know that he was doing a Jimbo impression. So please, Jimbo impersonator, we don't know your name. Call back and do it every week. We don't care. We love good Jumbo impressions.
I miss him, man. I miss him. All right, so Sam says, I don't know, 11 wins is possible?
See, I there's a chance they're playing 14 games. So 11-3 isn't crazy to me. Right. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not. I'm not assuming they go 11-1. I'm counting postseason games too. I do think 11-1 is almost unattainable. Like, I agree with that. I think that's almost just too much to ask. I don't. Things would have to go really, really, really well to go 11-1. So I think 9 or 10 wins during the regular season is much more realistic. But I think 11 wins is as likely as 7, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. No. I think the floor's got to be 9 though. I think it's there's very little wiggle. I think 9 has got to be your floor. I don't want to say 11's your ceiling. I don't know. I don't see that they can't. I mean, they can obviously, but again, if this is going to work, I mean, I think Urban Meyer went 8-5 in his first year, and look what happened in his second season. You know, Nick Saban went 7-6 in his first year. Look what happened in his second season. But I don't know, I just feel like with the talent they have there, I think these are different situations. I know Zook left a pretty good cupboard. I don't think Nick Saban had quite the cupboard that Urban Meyer had or that Willie Taggart has. And if they're buying in at the clip that these kids have kind of convinced us over those 15 practices over the spring, then I know there's growing pains with learning this stuff, but I mean, they're trying to teach them something that's more simple, so they should be able to pick it up pretty quickly. And obviously, you know, with the speed and the talent they have and going fast, keeping defenses on their heels, why not, man? I want 10 at the minimum, man. I want 10 at the minimum, or else I'm going to be really grumpy the entire offseason next year.
I mean, you're talking about regular season 10-2, because that would mean they're ranked like 8th or 9th in the country.
Yeah. So. All
right. I think that's a big leap. I don't think it's impossible. I think it can happen. I wouldn't, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't think most Florida State fans would be grumpy about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, if they go 9-3, I think most fans would be like, okay, that works. That's a good first season. That's a really good first season. Again, depending on who the wins and losses are again.
I think, can we not agree with the fact if they lose 3 games, one of them is going to be to an in-state rival? And that's never going to be
sometimes that's not great, but sometimes that happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you lose to Miami, Florida, and Clemson, those are your 3 losses. Well, how do you think Florida State? I mean, obviously nobody would be happy about that. But that means you won all the other games you were supposed to win. No, nobody's going to be happy about losing to Florida.
I can't, because, it's just life. That's the one thing we've taken so for granted. Anybody who lives in the state of Florida, they've been quiet. They've had to be quiet. They've had no choice but to shut up and accept their fate as being Mark Busters. If they win one game, it's all going to come down just raining flaming arrows of hell on us. And it's going to be miserable. And then I'm going to look at all of you, and I'm going to say, you remember the last guy you guys all hated? It never happened on his watch. Well, it did happen one time on his watch. But golly,
right.
I don't want to see it happen again. Anyhow.
No, and I get that, man. I get that. Like, the guy, Jimbo, left here, and what was he, 18-2 against his rivals or whatever it was, 16-2? And if you come out in your first year and you go 1-1 or 0-2, and my man only lost twice total in 8 years, so he was 14-2. My math is correct. Yeah. That's bad. That's not good. You're right. Taggart needs to win those 2 games.
Yeah,
he doesn't lose both of them. That would be a bad sign. It's not the end of the world sign, but that would not be a great way to start your tenure, is to lose to the 2 teams that your predecessor completely owned.
All right, let's leave. Let's not ruin people's days that much more now that you agreed with me. They're like, no, don't agree with him, Corey. Stay.
That's all we do is agree with each other.
I know, right? He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant. Jeff Cameron coming up at 3.
The Sod Cemetery, Osceola and Renegade, and of course, the War Chant. These are great traditions known to all Seminole fans. If you are a card-carrying, garnet and gold-wearing Nole, don't you deserve a site that is truly dedicated to covering FSU sports? Warchant.com's staff has over 50 years of experience covering the Seminoles. Warchant.com is the only FSU outlet with a full-time recruiting analyst in Tallahassee. Plus, it's the only site with a full-time videographer and a daily podcast, 100% dedicated to FSU sports. Why act like Gators and settle for second best? Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.